So I know a number of you were talking about this. What is that? I don't think, it's been a long time since I've been near a chalkboard. It's like it was replaced by whiteboards and now Promethean boards, right? It's like, wow. It's like you run your fingernails down or something, right? So, good morning. My name is Tom Harris. I'm with IBM. My title is Global or Worldwide Industry Solutions Leader for Public Sector. I focus on business analytics. And my co-presenter from our strategic partner of Desire2Learn is Lee Potek, who will be presenting the last third, I think, of our session today and be showing you that solution and some demos. So hopefully everybody got their fill of coffee this morning and we're ready to start. So my theme is going to be around smarter education and how analytics can help ensure the success of students and faculty and universities in general. That's kind of what the topic is. A little bit about my background. I've been with IBM for just shy of 4.5 years, focusing on government education and healthcare for most of that. But I've got about 20 years of experience in the business analytics space, working for several vendors. So I know this pretty well. Got a lot of client experience in this technology. Good morning. Good morning. So I like to run these very interactively. If you have questions, please feel free to jump in. I much prefer discussions to going through PowerPoints, okay? So just to throw a few statistics at you, 7.7% of college students attended more than one institution in the last, I guess, 2 years ago. So certainly I was an anomaly. I went to the University of Maryland for my entire, higher academic career. My youngest son actually did kind of a tour of duty and went to 3 different colleges on his way to a degree. Started out at Frostburg in Maryland, which is where I'm from. Went out to Utah, kind of to get away from the family situation for a while and attended college there, but ended up back at the University of Maryland and we're both alumni now. So that's kind of my background. 84.7% of first-year students want to be able to get a better job. And certainly in the recession over the past few years, that's been a challenge for certain majors with certain degrees. But probably the most salient statistic is the last one, and that is 20.7% of students need remediation during this process. Okay, and that's what this is all about. It's early intervention towards the success of students. That's really what we're kind of positioning business analytics to help you, to harness the data, to have timely interventions for a successful outcome. That's really what it's about. So if you think about, I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean by business analytics in a second. I'm going to define that in a complete slide. But if we look at, different application areas where analytics can play a role, can benefit, you see some of them around the circle here. Certainly admissions departments, measuring the number of students admitted. What's their profile? Who should we be targeting? I mean, you and the universities know what a profile of a successful student probably is. What are their attributes? You have the empirical ones like grades and test scores, but there's other attributes about students that can come out in essays and interviews that you may want to pull that data into your decision-making process. Presidents and chancellors, how efficient are the colleges being run? What are the costs versus the tuition revenue flow? Budgeting and finance, setting up budgets. Modifying them as parameters change with tuition. Curriculum development. Are you in sync with corporate America? Are your students ready to go out and get jobs and be productive with these corporations? So certainly there's a collaboration theme there. Students and instructors. Can students see exactly where they are in the curriculum, how they're performing, and compare that against other students across the country, or within the university, or within their college? And then curriculum departments, how do you make the curriculums to attract students and make sure they're successful? So, the old, what if I could, if I had access to data to answer these questions? And let me just do a quick question. How many of you all in your job deal with data analysis? Use data to analyze, to get answers? Okay, very good. Almost everybody. So second question. How many of you all feel you have access to enough data to make informed decisions? It's always the same. Nobody raises their hands. So that's a big problem. I mean, I can stand up here all day and talk about analytics. You're going to see some examples of some pretty nice looking dashboards, but it really boils down to the data. You have to collect and guarantee that that data is reliable, or this will not be successful. That's really the theme of setting up the back end data towards success for an analytics deployment. So again, could we offer tailored courses for different learning styles on instruction and learning? Can we build curriculums that address the needs of employers to ensure students find a job? These are all things that you should consider. And again, data and analytics on that data can help you with that. You're always more confident in making a decision if you can blame the data. If people come back to you and go, well, why did you decide to go that way? You can show them on your dashboard with reports, with content on your iPad. This is why I did. Blame it on the data, right? The data will satisfy everyone. So what we're really seeing is analytics moving university-wide and education sector-wide. When I started back in 1993 with a little small startup company, it was all about departmental deployments. It was a tool that small groups of users would use. In its infancy, it would generate SQL. It would generate a language to pull data out of a database. So you didn't have to program code. You didn't have to understand that language. That was its main claim to fame. But we were not seeing, large deployments. Now, this is really, has grown to be an enterprise-wide technology. It's really what we're seeing. And that's certainly the case within universities. So analytics is really, enabling smarter and more optimized outcomes because you're harnessing the data. One example is American Public University, where they were looking at factors around student retention. Why are students leaving? Where are they going to? What type of environment are they moving to if they leave our university? Being able to identify these at-risk students in a timely fashion to intervene, to try and turn the situation around and retain them. Okay, so they were able to accomplish 80% accuracy in being able to predict these at-risk students by identifying the characteristics that were indicated. So how many of y'all have heard of big data? Okay, quite a few of you. So big data is one of those new buzzwords that everybody has jumped on. And certainly IBM has a very robust solution and strategy and architecture to support big data. The problem is everybody has big data as a theme for the solutions and technology, right? It doesn't matter what the size of the company is, what the software does, it's got some sort of big data strategy. And what we mean when we say big data is really the full complement of data that you can collect and access to make a more informed decision. That's really what it is. To jump over to healthcare, if you're a physician making diagnoses, you want to be able to look at what all the journals say, what all of the patient's data says from different sources. What do your colleagues say? All of that. Educations, it's what are the top 10 majors in the next 5 years? What are the skills to support those majors to make the students effective? So you want to kind of break out of this mold of looking at a single database and look at the potential of what we call unstructured data. That's all the data that lives in Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, and now even social media. So how many of you ever thought that you could use Facebook and Twitter to understand what your students thought about your university? So quite a few are considering that. This is also a huge area of growth and emphasis within IBM, looking at sentiment, right? What are people saying about an initiative, about a university, about a certain college? Question?
Well, we do that. We use a lot of the Twitters and social media to know what the students are thinking of our registration system or the school in general. Do you have the ability to actually validate or know in advance if the student is about to fail just based on social media? Do you have any data mining there?
We do. We have data mining that can do that. What it's typically focused on when we say social media analytics is the ability to use analytics on those social media sources to determine what people are saying, positive, negative, what are the keywords. It does keyword searches, and then presents that information to you for analysis in like a dashboard or report format. so that you can see, what are people talking about out there with regard to a certain topic. So, I mean, you could definitely look at it in terms of a student failing. I mean, there's a number of ways to kind of isolate that.
Why I'm asking is, from a market positioning perspective, I think it's acceptable to look at social media and look at general patterns regarding your organization. Right? But if you're going to go and look at social media and to find out if that particular student or this particular student,
I see what you're saying.
Wouldn't that be invasion of privacy?
It could be considered that way. So you want to keep your granularity. You want to keep elevated to a, kind of an aggregate or a non-identified source type approach. You're really just looking for numbers of occurrences of terms and multiple terms that could be construed as negative in a sentence, for example. So, if you're going to, impose a tuition hike, or you're going to drop a certain, sporting program, game or sport, you want to see what people are saying about that. Well, I was never going to play that sport anyway in college, or, so you can put that together and determine what the effect of that is out there. I think it's huge in terms of, it's just another data source in this big data theme that you can pull in to make a more informed decision. Okay? So we categorize it by variety, velocity, and volume. But if you look at the type of data you have out there, you have video images, you have student test data, you have all kinds of huge data sources. And if you break out of this idea of a database and look at these other sources, you can pull in a lot more information. Okay, if everybody's heard of Watson, the IBM computer that played Jeopardy, that's really kind of the core concept behind Watson, is opening up the spectrum of data that can be pulled in. Now we're working with hospitals and physicians on focusing that on diagnoses and coming up with, using all these data sources to come up with a more accurate diagnosis for patients. Okay, so this is the one slide that will really describe business analytics to you. So, quick question, are there any users of Cognos in the room? How about SPSS? A couple on the SPSS side. So those are both business analytics technologies that IBM has acquired over the last, decade, I would say almost now. And they play a critical role in this, all right? So if we take a look and start kind of towards the bottom, you look at all the different data sources you might want or need to connect to answer your business questions. They certainly could be traditional, relational, unstructured, as I've been talking about with social media, application sources. You would like to be able to visualize that in a dashboard. So the idea of multiple data source capability exists. The other ability is to be able to put content in a dashboard that is particular to your use for your job. You don't live by a static dashboard that someone else has created for you, right? So, the ability to create reports, drag and drop type of approach, to make real-time decisions with your data. So streaming data, if you have devices on campus, video, or just card readers, that's all streaming data that's coming in that can be captured and analyzed. Around crime and law enforcement on campus, you want to identify if a student's pattern is they've gone to certain buildings and key carded in, or certain times they go to the library, or certain times they are on campus. That's all streaming type device related data that you can access with analytics. The idea being, you'd like to be able to take all of this data and visualize it in different sources or different locations. For example, you're in your office on a desktop or your laptop, you're looking at a dashboard, you're analyzing data, but you'd like to be able to take that and go mobile. Okay, another big key theme, mobility with this type of visualization. So take it on your iPad or your Android tablet and go out to talk to deans, go out to the colleges and have discussions about trends with students, about enrollment, about tuition revenue. And all of it's around asking these three simple questions. How are we doing right now with our key initiatives? Are we performing or underperforming? What are the trends? Why is this trend occurring that we're seeing? So can we analyze our data, drill into the data, and understand what is going on? And last, what should we be doing differently? You don't want to do the same thing and expect different results, right? And regardless of your role, you can take advantage of this type of technology. Oops, my bad. Yep, sorry about that. So when I was talking about mobile, most all technology in the market today can send content to a mobile device, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet. The question is, do you have to build that content for that device from scratch? If you've already got all these reports built and you're looking at dashboards, why should you have to reinvent that for the screen real estate that you see on these devices? So with the business analytics platform that we have, you build it once, you consume it anywhere. Okay, so you can look at the same report in your office, but yet synchronize and take that report or that dashboard on the go. You can travel with it with your device, and you can interact with it. You can scroll through, you can jump to various parts of the report. You can even drill back to the original sources to get more data. If you're drilling down in a college, you're looking at a particular, major, you're looking at, student records or, tuition revenue, you can drill in and get that level of detail if you're authorized, obviously. Okay, so just a few of the clients that we have. A number of these are joint customers that Desire2Learn and IBM has with our business analytics. A few from my area. I live in Maryland, outside of DC. So we have Johns Hopkins down my way. We have Gettysburg in Pennsylvania, Georgetown certainly. And business analytics is in use in a variety of different areas here, whether it be financial, asset management, academic, a whole host of uses that we see across these different accounts. So if we're looking at, how do we transform, education using analytics? It's really around assessing teacher effectiveness. How can they be more effective, when they are teaching towards better student outcome? Looking at how you can optimize your operations, control costs, identify key areas of risk. What areas of risk are you going to see in the next 5 to 10 years? And certainly around research and innovation. You can look at grants and dollars going to research and which research is, creating the most return for that investment. And just again, some more examples on the right that I'm going to be covering, I think, in more detail as we go through. So it's really turning data into insights and even adding another word to it, actionable insights, something you can take action on to turn a certain trend around. Certainly we're looking at quality of education. What will students need in the next 5 to 10 years, and how can our programs and our curriculum address that? If we look at areas, we can see student information systems on the left, certainly LMS or learning management systems, the type of analytics capabilities that can support those, traditional reporting, and as we call it, visualization, whether there be different types of graphics, even now animated graphics on the tablets. Scorecarding, everything's about measuring performance, right? So how are we performing? How are our students performing? We set a target or a baseline and we look at an actual to compare that. So we have the concept of scorecards. You can have a scorecard as part of your dashboard and see instantaneously how you're performing and then take action. When I started back in 1993, it was all about historical data, doing analysis up to the current point in time. Now it has gone to the next step and we're dealing with predictive analytics. And again, around risk, for example, identifying, again, based on that historic data, what risk might you incur? What type of outcomes might you expect in the next 3 to 5 years? So we have models that can actually do that for you as part of this. Okay. So, again, part of it is focusing on the ability to retain students. How do we do that? We can identify, what students are at risk. What can we do to intervene? We can look at what type of student behavior we're seeing and what are the effects of that. Some of this deals with statistics. So you're going to be doing statistical analysis on the data, predicting which students are at risk and which will drop out. Recruitment, we actually see application in the military as well as academia. So when you're looking at, volunteers for the Army or, people who enlist, what is the profile of the person who will actually end up joining the Army and that will be in the Army for, say, 5 to 10 years versus somebody who shows up at a volunteer station in the mall and never ends up applying or never stays within the Army. Same is true with, university setting. what are the type of students that you want to retain? What are the characteristics? And, how long will they typically take to graduate from your institution? So analytics can help there. So the curriculum development, this is key, and this involves a significant amount of collaboration with corporate America to, keep your curriculums timely, to offer the right type of technology training that corporate leaders want in today's workforce. It's all about managing and measuring. So looking at student performance, not only test scores, but other factors that are tied to their success, and making adjustments as necessary. So I've got a number of case studies in here. I'm not sure how many we'll have time to get through, but here's a couple to start out with. So American Public University, they were looking at the dropout rates, again, identifying, predicting what students are likely to drop out. They used analytics to deal with data, and they were able to look at student behavior using course surveys, which is a feature that we support. We have that you can actually put up a web survey, have students enter data, and then you can pump that into your statistics and analyze the data. And they were able to attain an 80% accuracy in identifying which students are at risk and then intervening. Edinburgh's Telford College, they were looking at attendance as a factor. They wanted to look at how that ties into risk of students dropping out. So again, they used analytics. They were able to look at, again, the risk of dropping out, allowing for that timely intervention by staff to turn that around, identify the students, and make it turn around and make it a successful situation. Baruch College, again, all about student retention, attracting the right students, retaining them. So they used analytics and were able to increase applications on the magnitude of 7.1% to their business school, and an overall achievement of 21% in transfer students. Okay, and then Wichita State on the right, an example of looking at how to allocate fees and all around academic student careers. They were able to understand the causes and predict the chances of success for students, and enabling them to correctly market. Marketing is obviously a big part of universities. They want to market for tuition dollars to attract students. They want to market for alumni dollars, for contributions and gifts. So being able to identify the population and the group that should be marketed to, and what's the most effective marketing mechanism for that. Okay, so I'm going to skip over a couple of these. So what you're looking at on the right is an example of a business analytics dashboard that we have. And standard business graphics on your data. Just keep in mind that these can be built on multiple data sources. So the whole concept of data silos, we're breaking those down, allowing you to cross those different silos and pull data in. The other key is, as I mentioned earlier, is this is content that you're either building or you're including in your dashboard view. So I can actually open a window to the right. I can pick from any content that has been shared. I can drag that on my desktop. I can refresh and get the latest data from any of those data sources. Then I can continue on my decision-making process. If I choose, I can build these from scratch myself. I can very quickly drag on a chart, specify what the X and Y axes are, what the type of chart is, and boom, I have that display. Okay. So just different types of applications around managing budgets. The concept of a budget used to be wrote a budget at the beginning of the fiscal year, and it was just basically permanent. It didn't change. And that has changed given the economic climate and the way we have to do more with less. So you want to be able to interact with this budget to do what-if scenarios. What if I were to hire 4 more faculty leaders in our computer science department? What's the cost ramification? How does that affect our budget and our expense controls? Right? What other areas do I want to take data or take revenue from to pay for those positions? So the ability to define a budget but yet interact and collaborate on it is built into this platform. Okay, a couple more. I think we might skip over those just to get back on track because I have to allow my partner some time here. And we're making copies of these slides available so you can read through the case studies on your own, at your own leisure. A little bit more on social media analytics. You know, I often get asked, you know, you work for IBM. IBM's obviously a technology leader in the space. What do you see are the big growth areas? What we see right now that is, you know, of significance is big data, which we talked about. That's huge. That choice of words, I mean. Mobile, being able to do mobile computing is huge. And this is the other area, social media analytics. It's getting a lot of interest, a lot of attention from industry analysts, from technology companies, from users such as yourselves. So being able to harness these data sources. Cities are very interested. Political leaders are very interested in it because you want to see what sentiment's out there. Uses of social media analytics, you know, identify leaders and followers, target prospects and students. We even have a package to help you introduce, in this case, SPSS, into the university setting. It's called SMART, or Statistics and Mining, or Data Mining and Academics. So it helps you introduce this technology and yet collaborate with corporations out there in an academic setting using this technology. So basically, the analytics are used to address a particular issue. I did an engagement up in Edinburgh, up this way, up in the city of Edinburgh, and they work closely with universities up there around the issue of traffic accidents and traffic maintenance. So that's a good example, great example where this is in use. So how do you begin this analytics journey? It's really pretty straightforward. Prioritize. Focus on the biggest, highest value opportunities where you're going to get the most return on investment. Start with questions. You all have questions you need to answer in your jobs. You can use analytics, you can prioritize and introduce it that way, and introduce it, you know, in small deployments. You don't have to buy the whole technology stack at once. Look for insights, you know, pull on your knowledge experts to understand what insights, you know, you should be gaining from analytics, and use that as a kind of a test bed. And the other key part is don't unplug any system you have. Run them side by side. If you're introducing analytics and your users are used to a system you have in place already, keep that running until they're comfortable, you know, making a shift to analytics. Okay, so I think at this point, we want to turn it over to you, Lee. Oops, did I skip into yours? All right, very good. Thank you.
Yep. So again, my name is Lee Potek from Desire2Learn. Much like Tom, I have about 2.5 decades experience in the analytics space.
Started when you were 5. Started when you were 5.
Yes. So the microphone's here, so I'm going to try and stay as stationary as possible so the people on the web can hear. But the reason Desire2Learn and IBM entered into this partnership is if IBM provides the business analytics layer, Desire2Learn layers on top of that nicely in the learning analytics layer. So Desire2Learn's vision is to transform the way the world learns. The core way we are doing that is through our learning environment, which is your typical LMS, which you'll see here. But our entire product suite contributes to that. So items like the learning repository and ePortfolio, which are institutional priorities for a lot of you, as well as our lecture capture software and our mobile technology, all contribute to that learning experience at your institutions. And then the analytics piece layers in the insights in the bottom left-hand quadrant, which is how do we take everything going on in the learning experience and draw conclusions upon it. The Desire2Learn Insights product is composed of 3 components, and I'll just bring them all up here. The first being the data warehouse. So everything our Insights products do runs against a data warehouse, which is outside of your core learning environment. So you're never querying live data. The process runs nightly, and the data is about 12 hours old when you're running reports. That keeps your institution up and running full speed, no matter what you're doing on the analytics side of things. Then the reports module. Some key items probably for a lot of you include, I'll just skip ahead to it in the interest of time, tracking competencies and rubrics. I know this is key to a lot of your priorities. Professional accreditation such as nursing and medicine programs need to track their learning outcomes and report on them. And we're enabling you to do this. So the previous way you've probably done it is sat in a room with big Excel tables with your instructors and deans tracking your learning outcomes against what you taught against. And I see some nods around the room, so I know that's true. So we're allowing you to let the technology do the work here. And running your quizzes and your Dropbox assignment rubrics through the learning environment allows you to automatically track those learning outcomes and report against them for institutional improvements. You can also track how the students learned. Are they on track and are they prepared? And really, the crux of my presentation, I want to show you our student success system, which uses the predictive modeling to draw insights upon your students. So how does the Desire2Learn Insights product answer these questions for you? So we'll get into the predictive modeling aspect in a moment. But the analytics-driven quality assurance, so how do you take what's going on, draw conclusions upon it, and make changes for future years? Again, programs like nursing require you to do this to keep your accreditation. And then how do we provide the visualizations and statistics to allow you to do that? And there's a number of ports, and the partnership with IBM will allow you to continue to report on those and visualize them. And then finally, a historical repository. That data warehouse that we talked about previously, it remains active years afterwards. So for example, engineering, if the reporting requirements change a year or two down the road, you don't have the data live in your LMS anymore. You can report back on a query against and say, oh, if in 2013 there's no engineering requirements, were we doing this in 2011? Quickly run reports and vice versa. And then again, the D2L IBM relationship. There's a lot of information and a lot of things going on inside the Desire2Learn suite of products. And how do we interconnect with IBM and Cognos for those of you that are Cognos customers and build customized reports on that. So what I like to do now is the most exciting part for Desire2Learn is jump into a preview, not a preview, this is a real product of our student success system. So what you can see here is what an instructor or an academic advisor would see, and it's a list of students. The video is just going to run through, but successful, potentially at risk, and at-risk students. And when we get in further, you'll see this is taken in week 9 of a 13-week course. And the system's using a variety of inputs to determine what success will look like to these students and if they will succeed. So the institution or the instructor decides what success is. I'm just going to pause it here, and we can talk a little deeper. So this is, again, the Insights dashboard for student success. So on the left-hand side is information pulled out of your SIS system. So this is separate from the Desire2Learn Insights product pulled into it. So college preparedness scores, credits to date, their GPA at your institution, as well as the student's name information. So again, putting yourself in the shoes of an academic advisor or an instructor who's seeing the student, in this case an academic advisor, because you can see multiple courses from different faculties. So again, week 9 of a 13-week course, and a variety of inputs are determining that Eric Cooper in math is red, so he's at risk. Eric Cooper in music, which is down below, which is his major, is not at risk. It will be green. And in the next version, you'll see what is contributing to that. And again, this isn't saying, well, if Eric Cooper gets 100 on every quiz and every test between now and the end of the year, what will he get? This is using a predictive algorithm to determine will he succeed in the course, and the success is determined by your institution. Any questions there as I boot up the next one? The inputs will become more clear as we go.
Do you track Eric, using your algorithm, is past semesters going to predicting how he's going to do this?
So the past semesters in terms of the course. So if you've had analytics or Desire2Learn Insights running for more than one semester, it'll track Eric based on a similar profile to Eric in previous versions of the same course. And then the SIS system will input what his cumulative GPA to date is.
So do you have the data elements already defined in kind of a user Cognos terminal queue that actually has that metadata?
So,
already, or they have to design?
So our data warehouse comes with a data dictionary. So the data is designed, and there's a number of reports out of the box, as well as the customized Cognos reports for that deep Cognos D2L relationship. Is there another question? So we're going to dig deeper into math, and you'll see here what's contributing to the prediction in his math course. So this is the overall success index, and it's showing negative, and it's trending downwards in week 9. Contributions for the math course, again determined by the institution when they implemented this, are course access and content access. So are they logging into the system and going to the course homepage? Yes or no? Are they actually accessing the content within the course? So many of you at your institutions, I've heard feedback that students will come to the academic advisor and say, yeah, I logged in, I did the work. Using this tool, you can see if they logged in or if they actually accessed the content. And that, again, the length of time and all those other factors go into the prediction on whether they're going to succeed or not. Social learning, so things like our ePortfolio and discussions tool pulls feedback there. If you're not using discussions in a specific course, that either wouldn't be as weighted as heavily or wouldn't be in the prediction at all. Completion of assignments and grades obviously contributing to success. There's other elements that aren't necessarily on here today that will be in the future. A deeper integration into the SIS system, such as, is the student using financial aid? What is their postal code? Are they local or are they out of country? Those types of items as well. And it'll be customized so the institution can determine what goes into there. So what you see on the right-hand side is the risk quadrant. Is there any questions?
You say ISS, are you limited any backend database, SQL, Sybase?
So it runs
Oracle,
off the Desire2Learn database and then links to Cognos. So the risk quadrant here is Eric Cooper compared to the other students in Eric Cooper's class. So there's 4 quadrants, and I'll just pause it quickly. The left-hand side is withdrawal or dropout risk, and the right-hand side is academic performance risk, and then we'll break it down. So Eric Cooper is in the bottom left. He's under-engaged, and he's getting low marks. So that's obviously the prime case for someone to drop out or to not succeed in the course. The top left-hand quadrant's an interesting one. Students are yellow, so they're at risk. But the key thing here is they're going to pass the course, but they're under-engaged. So what does that mean for the institution in terms of institutional insights or planning is, well, are they in the wrong major? Are they going to leave your institution to go to a different institution or to a college? And those types of conclusions can be drawn. Bottom right, they're doing everything they can, but they're still not succeeding. Again, interesting information for an academic counselor or an advisor to have. They're accessing the content, they're completing the assignments, but they're still not succeeding. And then top right, obviously, is they're on their way to completing the course or completing the program. So one more just to allow you to try and visualize this in your institution from a student success office perspective. So I'll just pause it here for. So you can see on this one, there's a number of different factors than the previous. So attendance, and a bunch of other factors there. But what I want to show you is from an academic advisor perspective, how this can be really beneficial. So here's notes and referrals from Eric Cooper's time with the academic advisor or student success office. Again, many of your institutions are probably doing this today in some form or another, but how do you layer it into what's going on in the learning environment where the students and the instructors are spending the majority of their time, and then how do you build upon student success with this? So the academic advisor, whether the student's there visiting or just doing a check, can go in and recommend intervention. Intervention could be an extra assignment. Intervention could use tools within our learning environment, such as different items to intervene and have them do extra quizzes or extra assignments, or just recommend a meeting face-to-face with the instructor. And that's the student success system from Desire2Learn.
There's an online question.
How do we answer the online questions? Just speak?
Yeah.
First you state the question, and then you
Perfect. So the question is, are there links to D2L videos on your website? So there's not links to the videos, but on the website there are simulations of various things of what I just showed you. So within the website there's simulations of the student success system.
Have you tested the effect of like effet Pygmalion en français, it's self-fulfilling prophecy. Like making a statement of something that is about to happen is sometimes half of making it happen in itself. So if students are looking at, or the teacher is looking at, oh, he's about to drop the class, is the teacher going to have a different approach with the student, making the student even less engaged? Have we had any results on that?
So no results to speak of. I think institution by institution, the governance of this data and these insights is the key on how you're going to use it at the individual institutions. I know a lot of research was done, and this was launched at a statewide implementation across the US that actually showed that the intervention could increase retention rates. So the predictive model was 98% accurate, and then it could increase retention rates by several percentage points, which is millions of dollars to your institutions. But how it's actually used is an institutional governance.
So just before I say this, I just want to say that it's cool stuff. I can follow it, and I know we've had some discussions, and so I'm really supportive, and it's things I talk about at my institution. But there's some things in there that I saw in your presentation at the end about linking to other things, and when you already talked about it. It's bringing this data together.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in Ontario. We have a privacy commissioner here who has an incredible international reputation, done a lot of work on privacy by design. And so where does that fit? So when I saw your diagram, you had, here's all the steps that you take. There's 1,000 other things we could talk about the challenges with the data. But where is the privacy piece in here? Because this is where I get the blowback on campus. They get really, really nervous about some of these things, about bringing this different data.
Well, and you're following the states, right? The latest controversy where they're monitoring all of our calls and tracking, they're subpoenaing Verizon and getting our data. So privacy is a huge issue. I'll answer, then I'll give you a chance, Lee. What you want to do is you want to be able to keep the data to an aggregated level so that you're never allowing for the drill down to an individual student's data. You also want to look at the types of data items you're collecting and visualizing so that you can't piece the story together and identify who an individual is. So you definitely have to have standards around the way you visualize this data to keep it, private. So some of it is the data you use, some of it's the way you expose it to users to consume, and some of it is the visualization techniques you use, I would say. It is a huge issue, you're right.
And then from the Desire2Learn perspective, in terms of drilling down into student data, this piece of the system anyway, the one I showed you the live demo of, is actually about student success. So it's again around governance, who has access to it. Right now the system doesn't even allow a student view. So the students can't go in and see, oh, I'm at risk of failing this course. That's a future iteration, but the institutions that have rolled this out successfully have kind of said at the top level, only our academic advisors are going to use this, only our deans are going to use this. Okay, maybe in this faculty, we'll let the instructors use it because there's a specific use case for it. But that's how
security is a huge theme. I mean, within the analytics portfolio, you have the idea of the concept of roles and even row level security so that I can log in, I may be able to see the students that are in classes I teach. I can look at certain data items that I'm allowed to given I'm an instructor. Whereas Lee, he may see only an aggregated view when he logs in and his profile, dictates that.
So privacy isn't just about security.
Right.
So privacy is about making those connections. It doesn't matter whether you look at it or not, but make.
Right. And then the potential for, evildoers, as we call them, to be able to get in and make those connections, that are unattended. So, there are safeguards you can put in place. You certainly have to look at what policies and laws are in existence in your, domain, whether, you want to expose this data in, a semi-public fashion.
Right, but privacy by design is generic, right? So it can be applied across. So I think something that you guys can take back is you got to help us figure out how to have this debate on our campus.
Sure. We'd love to participate in that debate because those kind of debates help shape our technology and the way we position it and market it. So we'd love to engage in that conversation with you. That's huge.
Yeah, I would really encourage those comments. You actually sit down and have a chat. Pretty good Desire2Learn because you're right here in Canada, in Ontario. is to sit down with Anne Kabukian, who is the Privacy Commissioner. She's a remarkable person. She's done some remarkable work. But you could actually take a little step back and look at, as Bo said, privacy by design. Actually design it into the process so that all the issues you're talking about are actually automatically taken care of in this whole thing. Because design, the privacy is part of the building of the system, not just an after the fact war plugged on or whatever the case is. Yeah, because we've got a secure network, it's all taken care of. This is from the fundamentals, and it would directly answer the questions that Bo is saying on campus environment, the challenges that they're faced with in adoption of this. So I really encourage you to sit down and have those meetings.
Just so you know too, there has been quite a bit of interaction with her and Jeff Jones at IBM. They actually co-wrote the document on big data and privacy by design. So you can download that off the internet as well. But there's a lot of architectural components that are already in existence to follow the privacy by design guidelines and structure, and we're adopting that within IBM with our students.
And just FYI, Yim Chan is the Canadian chief privacy officer for IBM. And as close to me, because is on the worldwide privacy commission for IBM, right? And Yim Chan is a senior advisor to that. So we've had a very, very long strategic relationship.
We need your help in higher education to be a voice and conduit to help shape this. It really is a partnership. How to articulate it to privacy by design. Because you are mandated to deliver student success, but therefore you need to have the tools to be able to do that. You need to work together. Agree?
And I would say the more input that we get from clients and
Yeah, one thing we'd love to do is collaborate with universities. I mean, there's such a huge knowledge base, and you're the source for tomorrow's workforce, and you're kind of the epicenter for issues like this. So we'd love to hear feedback and work with you in a collaborative fashion.
But has there been anybody in higher education asked to help drive that? Well, to bridge the gap on student success and providing access and addressing privacy issues.
It's a big question.
Isn't it?
I don't need no notes.
Yeah, you'll get nominated. Don't miss a meeting. They'll nominate you. So, other questions? We want to be cognizant of your time. It's about 10:35, which I think is the end of this session. One thing I brought up on the screen that I neglected to show in my portion is this is what for lack of a better term, Cognos dashboard or Cognos report would look like on your tablet. This is an active report that was saved out of Cognos for mobile use. And what you can actually do, you're not just looking at it and understanding the different budget and actual for different colleges, but you can still continue to interact with this. You can filter by clicking the check boxes on and off. You can actually click on a particular row and it will filter or drive the chart on the right to the right, to reflect the right data. You can jump down in the body of the report to different sections. And again, as I mentioned, you have a button on the top right that says Go to Dashboard. You can drill back to get more data if you need to. So it's a highly interactive user experience on your mobile device that takes advantage of that native environment. Now I'm just showing it in a browser here because I didn't want to hook up my iPad to your projection system. So, other questions? Well, I want to thank you for attending our session today, and hopefully you found it informative and a good use of your time. So thanks. Enjoy the rest of the sessions and today. Thank you.